So we are back in our series. If you're just joining us, we're in week 4 of a series called Things That Jesus Never Said. Things Jesus Never Said, and here's what we're doing. We are exposing lies all over the place. We're exposing lies all over the place, and there's a lot out there. That's what we're discovering. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of wrong thinking and wrong believing, and if you think wrong and you believe wrong, you're going to live wrong. And so we should not be surprised that there's lies out there that we believe. And it'd be wrong of us in here to think the lies are just out there. Oh yeah, the world, it's so deceived. No. It's in here too. It's in here that we end up believing lies. And we should not be surprised. You know why? Because there's an enemy. And you know what the major way he fights with? He fights with lies. He gets it because he knows if you think wrong and then you believe wrong, you're going to live wrong. And if it's a lie and you're deceived and you don't know you're deceived, you're living wrong and you think you're living right. That's why these things are things, they're sayings. People subscribe to them, these and many other things that we believe that we think are right and it's actually wrong. And what if you're on the wrong path and you don't even know it? The worst thing about being deceived is you don't know it. And so we're trying to expose lies. And this is what Jesus said. In John chapter 8, he said he, talking about Satan, was a murderer from the beginning, does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. And when he tells a lie, he speaks from his own nature because he's a liar and the father of lies. And so when he speaks, his native language is lies. And he gets out there and in here to believe lies alike. And this is why it's so important for you to know the truth. You won't know something's a lie unless you know the truth. You've got to know the truth. And that is so true with today's truth. I think today's truth is perhaps the biggest lie that is spread throughout. And ironically, today's lie, the truth is the complete opposite of this statement that we're going to expose today. Like last week, there was a little bit of truth. I told you if you were here last week, there was like a half-truth in the sentence of everything happens for a reason. I told you there's a half-truth. We had to unpack that a little bit. In today's lie that we're going to expose, the truth is actually the complete opposite of what this statement is. It's such an opposite. I can't believe that this truth is being proposed and that we even believe it. Maybe you even said it. Maybe you've even thought it. And that is this, that God will not give you more than you can handle. God won't give you more than you can handle. In my opinion, this is the lie of all lies. Because it is the complete opposite of the way that God works. It just seems to be, he loves to give you more than you can handle. It's like his favorite class he runs on his kids. And it's like, I'm going to opt out of that one. He's like, nope, required. He's like, I'll just skip. He's like, nope, I'm putting you in it anyway. You know what the name of the class is? More Than You Can Handle. That's the name of the class. More Than You Can Handle. And you start reading through the Bible, and you know what you find? Story after 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 story of God giving people more than they can handle. So that, watch this, you will stop being so self-sufficient and prideful and self-centered and I got this and my way and I'm going to do this and building your kingdom your way and be reminded that you can't and you need him. I mean, we just sang it. Oh God, I need you. Did we not just sing it? It sounded better than that when these guys did it, but you know the song. We just sang it. Oh God, I need you. And then we go over here. Did you just sing it? And then you go over here and you just live however you want? And that's why he goes, it's time for class to be in session. The class is called More Than You Can Handle. And so we're going to analyze this huge lie. Where did it come from? If the Bible is the complete opposite of that, which I believe it is, it's story after story of God doing the exact opposite of the lie. Why do we believe this lie? Where did it come from? And let's expose it. I'm going to give you 3 truths this morning, all right? 3 of them. We're going to spend the most on point 1, okay? So I'm giving you this as a heads up. Some of you are clock watchers, and like you're counting out the time, and you're like, this is point 1. He's got 3 points. This is awful, all right? So I'm just letting you know. Point 1 is going to be long, and point 2 and 3 will be fast, okay? So you can just relax, all right? So Here's truth number one. Three of them we'll unpack. Truth number one is this. I just want to go over with you the biblical evidence for the fact that God will give you more than you can handle. Okay? He will. And we could spend all day on this. We could go through so many stories in the Bible for you to see that God will give you more than you can handle, right? And this is why. He wants to stretch you. Plain and simple. He wants to grow your faith. God wants to grow you. If you're a follower of God, He wants to grow you. And listen, the only way you grow is if you're stretched. That's what He wants to do. He wants to grow you. He wants to stretch you. And so He is after your faith growing. It says in Hebrews that without faith, it's impossible to please God. So listen, He's really not all that impressed with your good intentions and your best efforts and your self-sufficiency and your pride and your I can do this. God's like, no. I want to do it with you. I want you to grow in faith. Is your faith growing? Is your faith growing? God wants to grow your faith. And so we just start in the Bible. You don't have to go far. You just go like page 3 in the Bible and you come across a guy named Noah. And God taps Noah and gives him a more than you can handle assignment. Noah, here's what you're going to do. You're going to build a boat. And it's going to be a massive boat without any power equipment. You're going to build a boat that's going to be the biggest boat that's ever been to that point in a landlocked region, which made no sense, among a people who didn't understand why old man Noah was going out and building a boat every day for, you know how long? You know how long it took Noah to build this boat? This Bible scholars say it took somewhere between 75 and 100 years for Noah to build this boat. 75 to 100 years every day. Like, you think that was more than Noah can handle? 100%. I don't know. I would have quit. Like, 6 months in, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not getting anywhere, right? 75 years. Noah. Then you turn the page and you get to Abraham. And God's like, Abraham, we're going to build a nation out of you. How are we going to do that? We don't have any kids. It's going to be okay. I'll show you. Here's what you need to do. Okay, what are we going to do? Get up, yeah, and go. Go where? I'll show you. Wait, just get up and go? Yeah. You think that was more than he could handle? Just get up and go. Where are we going? I'll show you when to stop. And then you turn the page and you get to Moses. And you have the Israelites in captivity for 400 years. And God says, hey, Moses, you're going to go tell the guy who's in charge of Egypt and in captivity of all 400 years, and you're going to say it's time for that to be over. You're going to let my people go. Moses is like, I don't want to do that. Sounds like something more than I can handle. And then finally, Pharaoh does let him go. And they're going, and Moses is leading the people, about 2 million people, counting men, women, children, leading. And they're up against the Red Sea. And they're like, all right, we should turn around and go back. And they turn around and turn back, and Pharaoh's army is coming after them to bring them back. And they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? God loves putting his people in situations that's too much they can handle. You turn the page, you get to Joseph. And Joseph is wrongly imprisoned, wrongly accused of rape, putting him in a situation where he had to trust God. You turn the page, you get to David. David was a shepherd. And all of a sudden, he finds himself face to face with a professional warrior that has lots of kills under his belt and is 9 feet tall and is about to kill him. A situation more than he can. That is God's playbook. What's the play he wants to run? More than you can handle. Okay, God, how about next week? More than you can handle. It's his favorite play to run with his people. God wants to give you more than you can handle, so that you learn to trust him and walk with him and have faith and grow. You get to the New Testament. I mean, I told you we could go all day. I'll just read one verse. And this is the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was like a faith giant. You want to, like, this guy was not like spiritually weak. He wasn't, right? He was a Christian killer. And then God grabbed a hold of his heart, and then he became a Christian maker. And he would go around and spread. I mean, he was just radical. So this is a guy who was like, this was like a man's man. This was a guy who was not an exaggerator. He was a man of faith. And he got put into such a situation. Well, let's just read how he describes the situation. 2 Corinthians 1 says, we don't want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, of our affliction that took place in Asia. He says, we were completely overwhelmed beyond our strength, so that we even despaired of life itself. Completely overwhelmed beyond our strength. It seems like that's what God likes to do. Put you in situations beyond your capability, beyond your strength, so you can't, so he can. So he can watch you turn to him. We despaired of life itself. Verse 9, indeed, we felt we received a sentence of death. We thought we were going to die. And then he says this, so that we would not trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead. Completely overwhelmed to the point where we despaired for life itself. This is not him saying, man, we had a bad day. This was him saying, I thought it was over. I thought we were done. This is heavy. And often that's exactly the point. God will let you go through heavy so that you can call on the one who's a heavy lifter. That's what he will do. Paul recognized that. He even says it here. We received the sentence of death. Why? So that, purpose clause, so that we would not what? Trust in who? You know what I think one of our problems is? Me included, all of us. We trust in ourselves. A lot. I mean, after all, let's be honest. We are educated people. Many of you have lots of degrees and numbers after letters after your name. You've got experience. You've got wisdom. You've got resources. You've got intuition. You've got past experience that you just I can handle this. I got this. We trust in ourselves. And when God sees that in love, he says, I think it's time for another class. I think it's time for the class of too much that you can handle. And so this is exactly what God does. It's his favorite play. And here's the principle. The principle that I want you just to walk away with this morning is this. God sometimes allows overwhelming circumstances not to crush us, but to teach us and to grow us. Right? God's not just into pain for pain's sake. He sometimes allows these things. Remember last week we talked about how everything doesn't happen for a reason. Sometimes it's just like, but sometimes God allows things. It's not God causing everything. That's what we said last week. God doesn't cause everything. But sometimes he allows things not to crush you, but to grow you. He wants to grow you. Can I ask you a question? Are you growing spiritually? Are you growing to be more like Jesus? That's the goal. You say, what am I growing to? You're growing to be Christ-like. And some of you might wrongly think, well, yeah, I'm growing. I'm learning some stuff. I'm learning a lot. I'm not asking if you're learning. This is one of the mistakes that a lot of Christians make, is they confuse learning with growing. You can learn and do nothing with what you've learned. As a matter of fact, that's why Paul says knowledge puffs up. You've got to change. This is what God is after. Are you changing? Are you growing? Are you becoming more like her? This is what God is after. He wants to grow you. He wants to grow you so that you learn you're not in control. He is. So that you learn you can trust him. So that it's more than a song of, oh God, I need you. That you really live this way. He wants to grow your faith. He wants to grow your faith muscles. Some of you have not exercised your faith muscles in years and they have atrophied. And this is what happens. Right? This is what happens when you don't use your muscles. They atrophy. They get weak. And some of you haven't used faith muscles in years because you're just playing it safe and you're over here where you think you got things in control. And it's a bad way to live. It leads to kind of just, honestly, lazy, fat Christians that don't want to change. Speaking of lazy, fat, so I've lost some weight recently, right? And so I reached a point, I went to the doctor and she yelled at me and said all my numbers were bad and basically called me fat. And so, well, she didn't, but that's what I heard anyway. And so that's how I took it. And so it was like, all right, it's time to do something, right? It's time to do something about this. And I want to be around when my grandkids hopefully someday are here and be able to be down on the floor and play with them and not need 5 people to come pick me up afterwards. And so it's like started and changing my diet and tried to really be healthy, and then started going back to the gym and learning, and started joining all these groups and learning, because I never really paid attention to nutrition and what I was eating. I didn't care, and learning about how the body works and trying to be healthy and exercise. And so I learned about muscles, and the muscles, like the more fat you have, it hurts your circulation, hurts your metabolism, your whole body, right? And so you want muscle to change all that. So doing all this learning, so it's like, all right, so this is how muscle works, right? Most of you know this. In order to grow your muscle, you got to break down your muscle. You got to stretch it, you got to tear it, you got to stress it so that it breaks down. So then you rest and you feed it protein, and then it grows back stronger, bigger. Right? That's what you get. But there's that initial stretching and tearing and stress and going, and it breaks down. And listen, and that is what God wants to do with your faith muscles. He wants to stretch you. He wants to stretch your faith muscles and tear them and put you in a circumstance where you feel like, yeah. And so it's an opportunity for your faith muscles to grow. But if you never turn to God in these situations, you are losing the opportunity to have your faith muscles grow. It's his favorite plan. Let's go to the gym. Let's go to the gym. And you know what? For most of us, it's kind of like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay here on the couch. Birds come on soon. I got some pizza coming. I'm all good, God, right? And so it's hard. It's hard work to change, but this is what God is after. And there's a word in the Bible that describes this. There's a word in the Bible that kind of describes this whole breaking down your muscles and staying in the gym so that your faith muscles grow. The word in the Bible, I didn't teach you a Greek word last week. We've been learning some Greek and Hebrew words throughout the series. I'm going to give you a good one this week. And it's all throughout the New Testament. And it's an important one because you need it to grow. And the Greek word is called hupomeno. Hupomeno. Say it with me, class. Hupomeno. Okay, let me show you what hupomeno means. Hupomeno is usually translated to persevere, to endure, to be steadfast, to be patient. That's what it means. When you read in the Bible in English, how you translate this, it usually means to endure, to be steadfast through something. It's an interesting word. It's a compound word. It's 2 Greek words smashed together. It's the Greek word hupo and the Greek word meno. Hupo means under. Meno means to remain. And so it literally means to remain under. That's what the word literally means, to remain under. To remain under the weights. To remain under the pile, to actually feel the weight, feel the stress, feel the pressure, so that your muscles, your faith muscles are growing as you turn to your spotter, your coach, your guide, your nutritionist, God, who wants to grow you to be spiritually healthy, to look more like Jesus. This is his whole fitness plan. And so it starts by him putting you in gym hupomeno. That's what he calls you to literally stay under. Let me just, it's a fascinating word. Let me read you from the Greek dictionary, the literal definition of hupomeno. Here's what it is. Hupomeno conveys steadfast endurance that clings to God in the face of pressure. More than passive waiting, it's active, faith-filled perseverance that refuses to abandon obedience or hope. While English versions alternately render the term endurance or perseverance or patience, its essence is spirit-empowered tenacity that remains under trial until God's purpose is fulfilled. Hupomeno. You with me? That's what God's after. God is all about hupomeno. For you to get in the gym and to remain under. And sometimes we get stubborn and we don't want to go and we want to sit on the couch and we just want to eat pizza and we want to do nothing. We want to be spiritually lazy Christians and let other people do the heavy lifting. And God goes, no. I see it's time for another class. called more than you can handle. Hupomeno, remain under. And it's all throughout. It's all throughout the New Testament. Let me just read you just a couple verses so that you can see this. I want you to see it. Okay, I put hupomeno, I put the Greek word in next to the English word so you can see how it shows up. Romans 5. Not only that, we also boast in our afflictions because we know that affliction produces, here it is, hupomeno. This is what's going to happen. Endurance, hupomeno. Verse 4. Endurance, hupomeno, produces proven character. Oh, so there's a progression here. It's not just pain for pain's sake. This hupomeno, remaining under heavy weights, is producing character. And then it goes on from there. And character produces hope. So there's a chain reaction of what God is trying to produce. Verse 5, this hope will not disappoint you. Why? Because God's love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So the whole thing is that God says, I'll go to the gym with you. I'll be hupomeno with you so that we can grow together and so that those faith muscles can be stretched and broken down and that you learn to lean on me and stop being so prideful and stop forgetting about me and stop being self-sufficient. Stop being casual about your growth. Sometimes I think that's one of our problems, is we're casual about our growth and our faith. Listen, you will never grow being casual about spiritual growth. It's kind of like thinking that you're going to lose weight by being casual about dieting. It never happens. You don't casually diet, right? So I started strong in January and went strong for 2 months and dropped 20 pounds. I was feeling good. And then went down to Florida with my dad for a week and ate like a pig for a whole week. And then I kind of stalled out. And and then I came back and just kind of casually dieted. And how many of you know casual dieting never works, right? Unless you're one of those people that accidentally loses weight. And just know we all hate you. Those are I forgot to eat lunch today. What? It's who are you? I don't need those people in my life. Those are negative people. Accidentally lose weight, all right? So for most of us, if you casually approach getting healthy, it doesn't happen, does it? But yet that's how some of you are approaching your spiritual health. You're really casual about it. I'll come here and I'll kind of I don't want to be too radical. I don't want to change. I don't want to be too much of a Jesus. And I'm telling you, you're never going to grow being casual about your spiritual growth. It just doesn't work that way in life. This is what Paul is saying in Romans. How about James in chapter 1? James says, consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, when you, what? Experience various trials. That's crazy talk. Consider it joy when you experience trials. Yeah, here's where James is going because God's putting you in the gym. And it's hupomeno, and it stinks at the time, but it's going to produce spiritual gains in your life. This is what James is saying. Verse 3, because you know that the testing of your faith produces hupomeno. Verse 4, and let hupomeno have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. In other words, don't bail on the exit real quick. You're hupomeno, to remain under. And you're under I can't, I'm out. And we walk out of the gym. We're too easy to give up. Or we say, I can't do it, I can't make it, I can't figure it out, I. And the whole thing is I. And God's over here I know you can. It's me, invite me in. And instead of inviting him in, you're out. That's what James is saying. Let it have its full effect. Let it have its effect. Don't quit. Don't get out of the gym too early. Don't look for escape hatches to get out. Don't miss the opportunity. What if we completely changed our thinking? That every trial you went through was an opportunity to have a God encounter. You're oh man, this stinks. I'm going through this at my job. I'm going through this in my marriage. I'm going through this with my kids. I'm going through this with my finances. Right? All of these things. And you see it rather as an opportunity, like, God, I wonder what you're going to do here. God, I look forward to journeying with you in the gym. I don't like it. I can't even say I want it. But God, I know you're going to do something in it. This is the mindset we need to have. We've got to get rid of God won't give you more than you can handle. It's the complete opposite of his plan A. He will give you more than you can handle. Hupomeno. James 5, he goes on and says this. So see, we count as blessed those who have, class, hupomeno, say it with me. They're blessed. And then he mentions Job. We talked about Job last week. You've heard of Job's endurance. You've seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. The Lord is compassionate and merciful. Right? I didn't end up the story of Job last week. We looked at Job. We talked about how Job's friends gave him bad advice, basically the old way of saying everything happens for a reason. God rebuked them, said, no, that's not how this goes. And the last chapter of Job tells the story of what God did with Job, who lost everything. Let me just read it to you real quick. What sometimes happens when you experience hupomeno, like Job did. Job 42 says, after Job had prayed for his friends, Job's a good guy. His friends gave him bad advice. Job turns around and prays for them. The Lord restored his fortunes, doubled his previous possessions. Doubled. Verse 12, so the Lord blessed the last part of Job's life more than the first. He owned 14,000 sheep and goats. These are going to mean nothing to you and I. Basically, it's saying he was wealthy. 6,000 camel, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. God gave Job a new family. Verse 15, no women as beautiful as Job's daughters could be found in all of the land, and their father granted them an inheritance along with their brothers. Verse 16, Job lived another 140 years after this and saw his children and their children to the 4th generation. Verse 17, and Job died old and full of days. Now listen, don't be a bad Bible student and take this out of context and be like, oh, that's what ends up happening? Okay, I'll do that because God's going to give me double. Okay, this is not a promise that God always gives double when you go through the bad. It is a promise that God works through the bad. That God works through the bad. He will when you learn to cling to him, stay with him. Here's the last thing I'll say and we'll move on to point 2. I told you point 1 was long. It's okay. A lot of times when you and I are forced into the gym, when we don't want to be there, and it's hard, and the pain is too much, it's more than you can handle, you are suffering, you're broken, you're at your wit's end, you have nothing left in you. Listen, it is then the enemy shows up, and rather than you turning to God for your strength, he offers a variety of things to numb the pain. And it's at this point that many people turn to the numbing agents to dull the pain, to take away the reality, at least for today, to help me get through it. We turn to other things rather than turning to the one who can help strengthen you through it. And so be aware when you're in the middle of it, when you're in your own, this is more than I can handle, the enemy loves to show up at that point. And you literally have God saying, invite me in, invite me in, invite me in, invite me. And the enemy's like, here's another way out. Turn to this bottle, turn to this addiction, turn to this thing. Be aware of when you're in it. Make sure you turn to the right thing. Here's truth number 2. If it's so clear that God will give you more than you can handle, why do we believe that? Where does that come from? Where does it come from that God won't give you more than you can handle? Why do we say, like the whole Bible is God giving people more than they can handle? Where does it come from? Here's my hypothesis. It comes from a verse that talks about something else, but sounds like it's talking about this, and we misinterpret the verse and apply it to this. That's what I think. And so here's what we do. We end up confusing a heavy burden with a heavy temptation. And that's what we got to be careful of. Don't confuse a heavy temptation time with a heavy burden time. You're like, what are you talking about? Let me read you the verse. You'll see what I'm saying. The verse is found in 1 Corinthians 10. And here's the verse. The verse says this: no temptation. Notice we're talking about tempting. We're talking about being tempted. No temptation has come upon you except what's common to man, what's common to humanity. But God is faithful. He will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. Whew, that sounds really familiar. That sounds really close. But this verse is talking about temptation, not talking about trials. And you need to know there's a big difference between temptation and a trial. This verse says God's not going to let you be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation, he also provides a way out so that you might be able to bear it. So, two things I want to say real quick about this. Truth number one about this is, listen, you've got to understand there's a major difference between being tempted and going through a trial. And regarding to this, God will never tempt you. God will never tempt you. God will never tempt you. He will never, come on, let me see how strong you are. Let me see if you cross this line into the sin pool. Let me see if I can get you in. God will never tempt you to sin. Ever. James, the half-brother of Jesus, when he wrote the book of James, wanted to make sure we knew that. Here's what James says in James 1. No one undergoing a trial should say, I'm being tempted by God. God's tempting me. James says, since God is not tempted by evil, and he himself doesn't tempt anyone. God doesn't tempt you to evil. That's not him. Where's it come from? James says, let me tell you where it comes from. Next verse. Each person is tempted when he's drawn away and enticed by what? His own evil desire. Remember this heart, week 1? Just go with your heart, trust your heart. Oh, this anush heart, this heart. This is where evil can come out of. And so you're not tempted by God. God won't tempt you. You're tempted by your own wicked heart. And oftentimes people use this verse and confuse it by saying, no, see, God won't give you more than you can handle. No. It says God won't let you be tempted more than you can handle. But then here's what it says. Can I ask you to go back to the Corinthians verse? Here's what it says. But with the temptation, he will also what? Provide a way out. So here's the cool thing. Listen, whether it's a trial or a temptation, God's with you through both. Next time you're tempted, can I get you to think of a word picture? Think of this picture. Think of God right there with you. And you're in the middle, whatever your thing is. And listen, we all have our thing, right? We all have our weakness. We all have our area. And your weakness is not your weakness, is not your weakness, is not yours. We all have our thing that we just, man, this thing just beats me. I struggle with this. Whatever your thing is, the enemy knows, you know, and God knows. It's not God tempting you to do your thing. It's either the enemy or your own heart. But God is right there with you. And here's the picture I want you to have. I want you to picture God right there with you and the Holy Spirit whispering to you, but there's the escape hatch. Right there. You don't have to go over the line. Here's the exit. Here's how you can get out of this. Here's how you don't have to lose this battle. Here's how you win. The temptation, God will always give a way out. That's what this verse is saying. Not that you won't go through trials. Not that God won't give you more than you can handle. God won't let you be tempted beyond what you can handle. Why? Because he provides outs. He provides escape hatches for you to get into and get out of the situation. I love that. I love that God's right there with us through it. So, difference between a trial and a temptation. God's with us through both. And lastly, truth number 3 is this. And this is the reality of our upside down world that we live in. But the more pressure you go through, the more pressure brings more presence, brings more of him. Brings more of him. The more pressure brings more presence. It's the upside down way of Jesus. Remember I told you this last week? It feels like that. It feels like we live in an upside down world. The ways of Jesus is upside down. But we said it's actually the world that's upside down. And so that the way of Jesus feels upside down, but it's actually right side up because the world is upside down. Right? Remember that? This is that. This is that. The pathway to more of God, his presence, comes through pressure. That's kind of how this works. When you recognize you can't, when you recognize you need him, when you recognize, my God, I need you, pressure brings his presence. There's something about when God's kids are they're just down, they're getting beat up, they're being crushed. It's more than that when those kids turn to the Father, he can't resist the open hands of the kids saying, I need you, I need help, I can't. He's waiting for all of us to get to the point where we just say, I can't. He loves to show up then. It brings his presence. When you and I act the opposite of that, when we say, I can, I got this. This is me, my way. I'm going to make it happen. I'm in control. I can do this. God goes, oh, okay. Well, I'll just wait back here. And I'm just going to let you. And it's then that we feel this relational distance gap between us and God. People say, why do I feel so far from God? Pressure brings presence. Jeremiah 29 says, you'll seek me and you'll find me when you search for me with all your heart. You want God? You got to seek him. You're going to find him with your heart. Jesus said in Matthew 7, seek and you're going to find. Knock and the door is going to be open to you. The Apostle Paul, when he was going through his hardship, he asked God 3 times, God, stop the pressure. God, I want out of the gym. You know what God's answer was? No. And then Paul prayed again. No, for real, God, I'm serious. I want out. And God said, no. 3 times. And then Paul got to the point where he said, all right, here's what I heard God say. This is what Paul says. He, meaning God, said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is perfected in weakness. Therefore, I will most gladly boast all the more about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may reside in me. Paul's like, all right, if I'm weak, then I'm going to actually be glad for that because I know, God, you're attracted to my weakness, so I'm going to turn to you, not turn to any of my numbing agents. I'm going to turn to you, and then I know that your power resides in me when I'm weak. Paul's like, I'll sign up for that. That's what I want. So then he goes on, he says this. This is part of the upside downness. It sounds crazy talk if you're just a human. If you're a spiritual being who understands Jesus, it makes sense. Verse 10, Paul says, so I take pleasure in weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, difficulties. Why? For the sake of Christ. Why? For when I'm weak, then I'm what? So, who's in? Who's signing up for that list? See, here's the challenge, friends. We understand that. Like, Joe, I get what you're saying. It makes sense. I just don't want it. Right? Anyone want that? Anyone want weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecution, difficulties? No one's signing up for that in their right mind. So let's do this. When they come, and it's not if they come, it's when they come. See it as this. See it as God going, hey, let's go to the gym. Let's do some hupomeno. Oh yeah, it's not going to be fun. Getting up early, going to the gym, it's dark, you're tired, it's not fun. But you're going to love the fruit. You're going to love the fruit. Here's why. Because in the doing, you get him. He's the goal. More of God is the goal. Do you want more of God? He's the goal. More pressure brings more presence. I'll have the worship team come, and I'll close with this last thought. Jesus was trying to get people to understand this, that this is not just like a little thing about the Christian life. Stay with me, friends. Don't miss this. This is not just a little thing about the Christian life. This is like the whole thing of what it means to be a Christian. And Jesus was trying to talk about how to get into heaven and what does it mean to be a Christian and what does it mean to have faith. And so in trying to explain this, he ends up calling a little kid. He does a living illustration. He calls a little kid and brings the little kid next to him. Matthew 18, he called a small child, had him stand among them, and he said this, "Truly I tell you," he said, "unless you turn and become like little children, you will" what? "You'll never enter the kingdom of heaven." Like, this is step one. This is the whole thing to be a Christian. Become like a little child. What's a little child? A little child just has blind trust and faith that the parents are on it. Like, your 4-year-old ain't worried about dinner tonight. Your 4-year-old's not worried about the heat bills this winter. Why? It's not even on my mind. I just know you're going to take care of it. Am I right? Jesus says that's the kind of relationship you're supposed to have with the Father. Where you just trust Him. Unless you become like one of these, you can't even enter the kingdom of heaven. Where you have faith like a child, that you trust Him. Do you trust Him? When He gives you more than you can handle, do you trust Him? Your pain is going to bring His presence. He's going to work it for good. Here's my fear. Here's my fear. My fear is that many of us missed the hupomeno opportunities. Because listen, we live in a broken world and it spills over into our lives. Pain is just a part of life. Physical pain, health pain, financial pain, relational pain, emotional pain, mental pain. There's just brokenness everywhere. And every one of those pressure situations is an opportunity to invite God into it. And my fear is that many of us miss those opportunities. One of the things I think, I don't know how it's going to go when we stand before God in heaven. But I wonder if we're going to be able to just look at the video of our lives and just see, I missed what you were doing there. Oh, I didn't realize that was that. And God, then you did that because of, and then I wonder if we're just going to step back and just be like, God was doing this whole thing, and because He doesn't force you, He invites you in a relationship. I wonder if we're going to just be amazed at how much we missed here while we're here, what God was wanting to do. Because I don't want to grow. I don't want to change. I don't want to get off the spiritual couch. So my friends, God will definitely give you more than you can handle. It's His favorite play. So let's just do this. Let's close by just putting our eyes back on Him. Some of you, you're in it right now. You're like, class is in session. I'm in it right now, more than I can handle. And I'm just going to say this. Take your eyes off the situation. You're like, what do you want me to do? I want you to focus on Jesus. Put your eyes on the coach. Put your eyes on the trainer. Put your eyes on the one who, that's what worship is. A lot of us are worshiping our problems because we're consumed with them, we're focused on them, we're just obsessed with them, and next thing you know, they've become your worship. You're worshiping the very thing you want to get out of. It's backwards. How do you get out of it? You put your eyes on the one who can help you get through it. That's why we wanted to worship here at the end. We picked these songs on purpose. Can I just encourage you? Don't sing a song. Don't mouth words. Think about these words that we're about to say. Ponder them, pray them, reflect on them, meditate on them. Let these words, as you're singing these words, be like, God, help this to be true. Pray it through. Let this time of worship be a sweet encounter between you and Jesus, who loves you. So let's do that. Let's stand. Let's worship Him together, church.